Hey everybody. So in this video, we have a absolute ton to discuss. And I brought my really good friend Dre, aka VashSky, on the channel to discuss it. We're going to talk about Chapek. We're going to talk about Disneyland Forward. Dre, welcome back, buddy.
Hey there, good to be back. And might look a little different behind me, but hopefully we get through it together.
I love the new studio, man. I love all those attraction posters in the back. It looks fantastic.
Oh, I really do. I mean, it's pretty much a dream come true. So I'm pretty proud of it, and hopefully you guys get a kick out of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's dive right in. We have a lot to touch upon today. But first, before we get into Disneyland Forward, I wanted to talk to you about this Chapek guest satisfaction survey. I believe Bob mentioned this on, what was it, CNBC the other day?
I believe so. It was one of those news outlets, one of those business news outlets that he occasionally makes appearances on. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Like, what the findings, and what are your feelings on what he was talking about in regards
So
to that?
he was asked, how are the satisfaction reports for the parks going? Because there's been a lot of talk about. I mean, let's face it, the experience has been not insignificantly reduced, right? I mean, it's you have no parades, no shows, no entertainment, no almost no live entertainment, no nighttime entertainment. So I guess people were kind of wondering how people were reacting to such a drastic change for the theme parks. And he responded, "Oh yeah, our satisfaction surveys, they're actually, you know what, we've been getting fantastic guest response. And in fact, our guest satisfaction surveys have actually been higher than pre-pandemic." And listen, I've defended Chapek in the past. You know me. You kind of know us, right? We're not Chapek haters. We're just kind of like, hey, let's give the guy a fair shot. Let's give him his due.
Absolutely.
And then if he messes up or does something wrong or whatever, then we can take him to task on it. But let's just be fair here. And unfortunately, that's not the case here. I mean, it could be any number of scenarios that he's talking about, but it's quite alarming when you have the CEO, who was previously in charge of the Parks and Research Division, come out and say, "Oh no, our guest satisfaction surveys, they're way up," and it's pretty alarming for a couple of different reasons. One is he might be just ill-informed, which is really not good.
That's really bad. Yeah.
That's like the worst scenario out of all of them, right? It might be that he's just simply attempting to brave face and say, "Oh yeah, everything's fine back here. Don't look behind me," kind of thing. But if he's honest though, and they really are getting high satisfaction survey results, like he implies, that could lead to any number of issues. These these surveys that they do are extremely important for park operations, for getting projects approved, not approved, for getting certain things moving or not moving, and for him to indicate that they're at some level that might not be consistent with what's actually going on in the park, or with how us as fans perceive them, or the value they bring the guests, and kind of the real true guest reactions to these things. It's significant because if they're out of step, if they're trying to manipulate the data, or attempting to put it out there that these satisfaction survey results are inflated, or are higher than they should be, well, then you can obviously kind of make the jump to, well, if the survey results are as high as they are, without as much value, without as much of an experience as brought forward to guests, well, then you could make the argument that these things should be cut because, well, they're not really doing anything for our survey results anyway.
Right.
So what's the incentive to bring these things back if guests are fine?
Right.
And that's kind of what Chapek, without saying as much, kind of implied that, maybe the theme park says we know it never return because, well, our surveys are up. And that's just a really bad way of looking at it. Had he said, well, we've noticed a decline in some things, but an increase in others, and we're looking to facilitate the guests as best as possible. Maybe some things we save, some things we go back to. That would have been a far more honest answer. But I mean, he's either blowing smoke or any number of problems. But it really is concerning when it comes to how the guests really perceive the parks now, as opposed to how they're saying that they do.
I have a feeling it's a little bit of like the truth and not so much the truth. And what I mean by that is I feel like it's sort of he's telling the truth. I'm sure there are some aspects of this experience that guests are very happy with. I'm sure the parks are less crowded. I'm sure the crowding and the waits are probably higher than they've ever been because it's limited capacity. But it's sort of a lie by omission sort of thing where he's kind of leaving out the ones that are probably like, for example, when they ask guests, did you get everything you wanted out of the experience, like that, they probably scored very low, but he'll leave that one out. He's cherry picking and sort of taking the few that are higher and sort of saying, yeah, we higher than ever. It's great. Everyone's happy, when really there's aspects that where people are happier, but there's a lot of aspects where they're not, it's a lie by omission.
Right. And again, that has its own complications attached to it. Are they attempting to skew results to get the data that's favorable to what they want? These things are kind of difficult because they are so important to how the parks operate that it's just kind of alarming. Are they asking certain questions in order to hide the kind of underlying truth that everybody knows? Is it, is Chapek getting misinformed, only getting the good, not the bad? Is he holding that back, like you say, lie by omission? I don't know. It's just, there's a disconnect here.
Yeah.
You can't say, oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say on that, because I didn't actually watch that interview. Did the interviewer follow up on that? Did they ever ask him like what exactly is up, or did they just kind of like move on and that was the end of it?
I'm pretty sure they moved on to the next question. I'm pretty. I don't think they really harp down on that, but
Yeah.
it's hard to have that soundbite go off, and even
Right.
though there might be additional context, that's going to get lost, and unfortunately, it just leaves a bad impression, especially as fans, because it's like, wow, it's a significant diminishment of the theme park experience at Walt Disney World in many aspects. I mean, there aren't even as many restaurants open now as there were before, right? They have wonky hours. It's just, and then it's all being charged the same. It's all for the same price,
Right.
and it's just, I don't know. It just kind of gave me goosebumps. Maybe it just it's just like, wow, that I didn't expect that kind of answer. I expected something that was a little bit more, obviously corporate, obviously safe,
Right.
but something that was far more. It just seemed out of touch,
Right. Yeah. No. Totally. Yeah. And especially with a guy like Chapek, and again, he's not fully in charge now because Iger is still kind of looking over his shoulder. But it kind of makes, I think it's the worry is justified because he has a reputation for cutting. So when he gets these guest satisfaction surveys saying everything's great right now, when everything is being cut, it like justifies his cuts, right? It makes it okay. Then he's like, well, this is what the fans want, so it's okay to cut it. They don't care about this stuff, So the worry is definitely justified, especially coming from Chapek. You also brought up a great point, Ray, where it feels like there's a disconnect. That's one thing I really appreciated about Bob Iger is that he was more forthright, like even with Star Wars, after, Solo bombed in the box office, he came out and said, hey, we went a little too fast. That's on us. We went a little too fast, a little too much. We're going to pump the brakes a little bit. I want to see that same kind of candor coming from Chapek, and I haven't seen it yet.
No, we haven't seen it yet. We haven't seen a kind of an honest take of what's going on here. It's very much. I get this sense from Chapek that he's this kind of, not a maybe used car salesman, but a salesman, right? He's trying to make things look better than they are constantly. And it's just like, look, listen, I understand you're worried about the stock price. I understand you're worried about making a mistake, saying something that might drive down the price and might get investors kind of, leery and all that. I understand that. I understand you kind of have to play certain things close to the vest and all that. But you also, too, have to demonstrate that you're in tune with what's going on with certain divisions within your company, that you understand your most prized demographic, which would be park goers, really, because they account for anything anywhere between 35% to 50% of revenue. That you understand what they want, that you understand. Or you get a true sense of how satisfied or unsatisfied that they might be, and accommodate that. And it's just, it's really profound. I mean, listen, I understand it's one aspect, but these surveys are extremely important. I mean, I know, I've known that some surveys are manipulated to get results that certain forces want, whether it be Imagineering, TDA, TDO, Management Ops, Burbank, and they drive certain decision making, sometimes profoundly. And so, when you're out of step with that, it could get messy. And we've seen kind of like, okay, a little side tangent here, right? You've seen what's going on in World Showcase Lagoon.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
All right. Barges, yeah.
The barges, right? I mean, it's
how could you not see those, Dre?
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. You can see them from space. Look, if I were to look out my window right now, here from Arizona, you from California, we could probably see the same sign together. These things are massive, right? So obviously, it's just this eyesore, and who could have approved that? Well, there may have been some process by which guests were surveyed and said, hey, if we, do something out there that ruins the view, will that significantly reduce your experience in the park and so forth? And if they get maybe surveys now that say, oh, well, these things are eyesores or whatever, maybe they get budgets or money or reconfigure some things to allow them to move. That's how these kind of things, drive certain things that we want, certain things the guests want, so forth. And it could be that sizable. It could make those differences when it comes to the future of the parks and how they're treated by ops.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I definitely share your concern with that, and it could be that it doesn't, things go on and we get everything back the way it was, and great, that would be great. But I can definitely see the concern where it's rewarding cost cutting. It's rewarding that, and it's troubling. It's really, really troubling to see that, that he's so happy about, hey, there's less entertainment, there's less happening, but guess what? Guests are happier than ever, and it's like, yeah, that's not a good thing.
No, it's not. And I would have thought that maybe survey results that may have been higher than before, or guests that were satisfied with how Disney is, handling this whole thing. Right. That might have been maybe 3 months in, but now we're, they opened, I think, in June, July, and now it's March, and
pushing a year.
Yeah, so I just can't see guests being more satisfied, even in, like maybe one or two aspects, but in general with the theme park experience, paying the same rate now for, what, 7 months or so. I mean, I don't think that's sustainable. That's really not sustainable, and hopefully they understand that. But we'll see.
We'll see. Absolutely. Yeah. I think Chapek is, I think he's cherry picking like crazy when it comes to that. I just, like you, I'm flabbergasted. I'm shocked that would even be the case. Like you said, in a few instances, like maybe like, wait times and crowding and things like that, I can definitely see those being higher because they're capped with their, capacity now.
Yeah.
But other stuff, I mean, come on. I mean, the experience has been drastically cut.
Drastically reduced. I mean, like I said, no. I mean, not even meet and greets. Meet and greets used to rate highly as not only something that satisfied guests, but something that was extremely important to them. And meet and greets don't exist anymore. So I mean, that's that's just one aspect. We can go down the list.
Yeah,
it's huge. The going to Walt Disney World now, or how Disneyland will be later, is going to be, I mean, it's a significantly different experience.
Yeah.
And the fact that Chapek is saying, not only is it not showing up in our survey results, but we're actually doing better than we were before, that should alarm every single person. Because, like I said, there's a couple of scenarios to which that might be true.
Right.
All of them concerning.
Absolutely. So let's pivot now to this huge